Welcome to another series of our bariatric cooking classes. So as you all may know, this recipe here is special because it comes from the recipe exchange winner that we just announced back in December 22nd. So her name is Ginny Dean. Thank you, Ginny Dean. And the recipe she posted was a lasagna soup, which we thought was very creative. Definitely we can get a lot of protein from a lasagna inspired dish. And we're in the middle of the winter, so it feels like a very type of warm comfort food that's special for when it's cold outside. All right, so let's talk about the ingredients. So it's like a lasagna without the noodles. So you have I have a 20-ounce can here of crushed tomatoes, 1 cup of part skim ricotta cheese. There's some Parmesan cheese. Not sure how much I'm gonna add, probably around 2 to 3 tablespoons tops to this recipe. I've got a pound of lean ground turkey. And the reason I'm saying lean is because you can get ground turkey that is as high fat as beef, for example. So you still wanna get ground turkey that says lean. Anything that's 90% or higher would be ideal. I also have 1/2 cup of fresh basil, which I roughly chopped, 4 garlic cloves that I sliced very thinly, 2 teaspoons of Splenda, or you can use any artificial sweetener that you prefer, or stevia. Just remember that they all have a little bit different sweetness level, so the amount that you have to use may change depending on which type of sweetener you select. 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. If you're avoiding spicy food, this is not needed. And I have 3/4 of a teaspoon of fennel seeds that you can either crush them with a heavy skillet, or what I did is I have a spice grinder, I just ground them up. So if you look at the original recipe in the post, it did call for a little less turkey and a little less of the fennel and the crushed pepper, but I thought that it would be good to bump up the protein content of the recipe, so that's why I increased it to a whole pound of turkey. That way you use the whole thing, you don't have to save half of it, and I also increased the red pepper and the fennel to give it a little bit more flavor. All right, I also have 32 ounces of chicken broth here, ready to go. And I've heated a large pot. It's heating up to medium-high heat. So let's move over there. And the first thing we're gonna do is saute the garlic and some other ingredients. So follow me. All right, so I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of olive oil into my pot. I'm measuring it because it's hard to tell if you just pour. You really don't know how much you're adding. It's a good way to control the amount. And I actually reduced the heat to closer to medium, so it's a little bit above medium because it was getting really hot and I don't want my garlic to burn. So I'm gonna throw in the 4 garlic cloves. Make sure I start moving these around quickly because I don't want them to burn. They're starting to brown, so I'm actually going to remove it from the heat. This is the best way to stop something from burning. Just remove it from the heat. And the heat that's still in the pot will cook the garlic. All right, so now I'm going to add the fennel seeds and the crushed red pepper. Stir it around. So you see I haven't even put it on the heat yet and it's still cooking. The garlic can burn really easily if you're not careful. All right, so this garlic is nice and toasted. I turned the heat down to medium. And now I'm going to add the turkey into the pot. I broke it up into smaller pieces and I just want to leave it there so it toasts a little bit in the bottom. Now it's okay to bring the heat back up because the garlic is not going to burn now that it's mixed with the ground turkey. All right, so the turkey has been here in the pan for about 3 minutes. I haven't stirred it at all. Now I'm going to stir it a bit. So the point was to get some brown, a little bit of browning on the turkey. As you probably have heard me say before, browning adds flavor. So I'm just going to stir it around a little bit, break it up into small pieces. And now I'm gonna let it sear for another 3 minutes. Okay, now it's been toasting for another 3 minutes. I'm just gonna stir it around. And I'm going to add the crushed tomatoes, the fresh basil, and the chicken broth. I haven't added any salt to the ground turkey because the chicken broth has all the salt that we need. I am gonna taste it at the end and adjust if needed, but it should be okay. Oops, there we go. All right, so let me get all of that broth in there. Crushed tomato. Whoops, it's a little bit messy. That's okay. But that's what the apron's for. And then the fresh basil. Give that a stir. I'm gonna bring this up to a boil and let it simmer. I want to reduce the liquid maybe about 1/3. We want it to be soupy, but not too soupy. That may take about 20 minutes to happen. So let me bring up the heat to the highest heat. Once it starts bubbling, I'll bring it down to around medium heat, medium low, and wait 20 minutes for it to simmer. While the soup is simmering in the back, I'm gonna prepare a ricotta cheese mixture which is gonna go on the top of the soup. It's gonna be a little bit of a dollop. That's gonna give it creaminess and another level of flavor. So I've got 1 cup of the part skim ricotta cheese and some grated Parmesan cheese. I didn't measure the amount. I'm gonna measure it now with my tablespoon. So I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons. That's 1 and 2 to the ricotta cheese and mix that thoroughly. Now the soup has been simmering on a little bit below medium heat for 20 minutes. It has gone a good bit down, so I think it's ready. Now you see these little dark pockets here. That is where the oil or any excess fat from the ground turkey accumulates. I want to remove that because I want this to be as low fat as possible. It still is going to have fat, but I don't want any excess. So it's really easy. All you have to do is take your spoon and just remove. You see how this looks really oily? That's mainly oil right there. And I just put it in a little dish and discard it. So again, I just put my spoon kind of level to the broth and then gently let the oil get in the spoon. And I'll do this as much as I can to remove most of the oil. It's okay if you remove some of the broth. It'll happen. But it's gonna have a better mouth feel if you remove all this oil. Okay, so that looks much better. You see, you don't see the dark pockets anymore. So we've removed most of the oil and it's all right here in this dish. And I'm just gonna discard this. I'm not gonna use this. We turn off the heat, remove it from the heat. Okay, so I removed the lasagna from the heat. Now I'm gonna add the Splenda. This, for my personal taste, I don't like a lot of sweetness in the lasagna flavors. So I'm just gonna add a teaspoon of this to the whole soup and then adjust if needed. So that's a teaspoon. Stir this well. At this point, we want to taste and see if it needs any additional salt or any more Splenda. I'm only going to add a pinch because I know the Parmesan cheese is also going to add some flavor to it. Now that I've added the salt, I think it tastes better and I'm ready to plate it. So I've got my small bowl here. I've got my ricotta cheese with the Parmesan cheese that's gonna go on top and a little bit more Parmesan cheese sprinkled at the end. So when I scoop this, the most important thing we always wanna remember is we want that protein in there. So it's okay if you try to remove, most of the broth so that you can get most of the protein in there. I'm gonna add a dollop of the ricotta Parmesan mixture. And then sprinkle just a pinch of the Parmesan cheese on top. And there you have it. That is Ginny Dean's lasagna soup. Thank you so much for sharing the recipe, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Bye-bye.